Senators have resurrected a bill named after who they believe to be one of the worst offenders, if you will, Nancy Pelosi.
And the former speaker was on CNN yesterday where she was dodging questions on whether or not she would support the bill. Our congressional correspondent Kilmeny Duchardt also grilled the California Congresswoman about that. She joins us live. Kilmeny, good morning.
That might have even happened on National Report, Sean and Emma. Think about how many years we've been talking about this. You know, for years, this has had this idea of banning congressional lawmakers from trading stocks. That has had broad bipartisan support, but somehow it's never really gotten across the finish line. And that's because lawmakers can't really agree on who it should apply to. But we did see some movement on Wednesday when it came to the Senate committee that voted 8-7 to advance the legislation that would ban lawmakers, presidents, and vice presidents from trading stocks. Nearly all Republicans voted against it, including the panel's chair, Senator Rand Paul. The only Republican to support it was its author, Senator Josh Hawley.
Insider trading has always been illegal. It was further made illegal under more scrutiny under the Stock Act. And I think this is a solution looking for publicity, but not necessarily something that is really an accurate or effective tool. If it were, it would apply to President Trump.
The information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable.
He also referenced in that exchange the lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that, of course, benefited from the information during the COVID-19 pandemic and made some of those key trades. But President Trump isn't happy about those developments, despite the fact that there was a carve-out exempting that law from applying to him. But he did signal that he was open to the idea.
Conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated, because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
Sean and Emma, here's your throwback. I asked the former speaker about this back in 2022, why it had taken her 8 months to put a bill that she did support on the House floor. And on CNN Wednesday, she was asked about it again.
I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward.
Well, pressure is mounting on Capitol Hill with Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna threatening a floor House vote when Congress returns in September. So we haven't heard the last of it. John and Emma.
Yeah, real quick, Kilmeny, I know we've covered this on National Report. What about the spouses of congressional leaders and trading?
You know, this is certainly part of that legislation that was authored by Senator Josh Hawley. That original legislation exempted or actually applied to not only lawmakers but their spouses. There's been a lot of talk about, putting assets into blind trusts. But ultimately, this changed quite a bit over the committee, with a lot of Republicans saying that it should apply to presidents, others saying that the president should be exempt. So again, this goes back to who this legislation should apply to. And I should also note, in that panel vote, they stripped the name Pelosi out of that legislation in order to get Democrats on board because they didn't like the name. And of course, Nancy Pelosi back in 2022 had told us that she believed that that legislation should apply to Supreme Court justices. So it sounds like they need a whole of approach here of who this should apply to. But ultimately, there's always something, Sean and Emma, that lawmakers have an issue with. So we'll have to see how this develops.
Well, you're relentless through it all, asking questions year after year. Kilmeny, thank you so much.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.